ye urvanem men geire vohu dede hatra manang ha ashish chav shel tananau vidush mazdau ahurahya yavat isai tabachau avat sai aeshe ashahya.
Zoroastrianism is one of the world's oldest religions. Rooted in ancient Persia, it's for the most part monotheistic beliefs held a precedent and influence on later Abrahamic traditions, as well as the Zoroastrian king Cyrus the Great being considered a messianic figure in the book of Isaiah. It especially has mystical significance within Gnosticism and Hermeticism, both faiths that held a huge influence within this YouTube channel's paradigm. With Zoroastrianism being a dying religion, a lot of people have struggles making a pragmatic correspondence within the systems, cosmology, and cosmogony within this religion. Today's video is to give a conjecture and a possible correspondence within the 7 angels known as the Amesha Spentas, or the archangels, I guess you could say from a Abrahamic perspective, that lie within the Zoroastrian tradition. These 7 Amesha Spentas, or immortals, will be fit within the 7 ancient spheres, or the 7 planetary objects that are within ancient astrology. Please note that this will not be a one-of-one correspondence, and that the correspondences can be tampered and tweaked with, depending on what your conclusions are within this correspondence. This is just to set a standard on what a modernization of Zoroastrian kind of theology could look like. I hope in doing so, I can do the Zoroastrian paradigm justice, and can hopefully introduce Zoroastrianism to a mass audience so that they can find a practical correspondence or a modern influence within Zoroastrianism. This isn't just to show that Zoroastrianism has a place in modern practices. Rather, it's to show that modern practices had a place within Zoroastrianism. We at the Ikhwanas Tahab, or the Brethren of Gold English, hope you enjoy this practical solution within finding the angels of Zoroastrianism and the 7 ancient spheres in astrology. Are you ready? Let's get started. The 7 Amesha Spentas, or the 7 immortal angels in Zoroastrianism, are typically emanations that emanate directly from the Wise Lord or Ahura Mazda. These 7 emanations go as follow: Spenta Manu, Vohumana, Asha Vahishta, Kshatra Vaira, Spenta Armaiti, Harvatat, and Amirtat. Now, respectively speaking, the 7 ancient spheres in astrology, if anyone is unfamiliar with it, are these, and I'm doing it in the order of the days of the week: the Sun, the Moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn. With all of these factored in mind, I will now be giving the correspondences of these Zoroastrian archangels within the astrological framework. First of all, we have Spenta Manu. Spenta Manu quite literally means Holy Spirit. So yes, there was a term Holy Spirit before Christianity and Judaism. Spenta Manu's role as this Holy Spirit is the creative force of Ahura Mazda. It is Ahura Mazda inserted into the Amesha Spentas. For this reason, I have decided to place Spenta Manu as the sun, mainly because in the hexagram cosmology of the 7 ancient spheres, the sun is at the center of the hexagram. And just like how the sun is at the center of the hexagram, Spenta Manu is at the center, arguably, of the Amesha Spentas. Another thing too is that the sun is typically a symbol of Ahura Mazda in Zoroastrianism. And so placing Spentamanu as the sun makes sense to me, as Spentamanu is, like I said, the placement of Ahura Mazda himself in the Amesha Spenta cosmology. Next we have Vahumana. Vahumana means good mind, and it represents wisdom, cattle, and animal creation. For this reason, I have decided to place Vahumana as Venus, and it has a little bit to do with Egyptian astrology. You see, in Egypt, the Venusian goddess Hathor is typically associated with cows and cattle. So, with the syncretization in mind of Hathor, the Venus god in Egypt, typically representing cows or her symbol being a cow, I decided that Vahumana would be a perfect fit for Venus. Next, we have Asha Vahishta. Asha Vahishta quite literally means highest truth or highest order. Asha Vahishta presides over fire and light itself. This should be a no-brainer to a lot of astrologers that Asha Vahishta sounds like a Mars or martial energy. For anyone unfamiliar, Mars in astrology is typically a very fiery and orderly sign. Mars in a lot of astrological systems deals with restriction and deals with order in its own respective right. Next we have Shatra Vaira. Shatra Vaira means desirable dominion. Shatra Vaira presides over metals and power. This one was kind of a tricky one, but for me what I decided to pick was Jupiter. The reason why I picked Jupiter is because Jupiter in many pantheons is considered as the quote unquote king of gods. See Zeus, Jove, Indra, and Marduk for references of Jupiter typically being the king of gods in a lot of pantheons. So, because of his power and this sort of kingly kind of manner, I decided to have the dominion, or Kshatra Vaira, the desirable dominion, preside over Jupiter. The only discrepancy I see within the syncretization is Kshatra Vaira presiding over metals. I don't see too much of a connection between Jupiter and metals. However, the power that Jupiter has definitely seems to me as a good fit for Kshatra Vaira. Next we have Spenta Armaiti. Spenta Armaiti means holy devotion, and it presides over the earth and serenity. For this sphere, I decided to pick Mercury. I decided to pick Mercury for Spenta Armaiti because in Hermetic and astrological Kabbalah, Mercury rules over surrender and splendor. These things deal overall with devotion and serenity. But also in astrology, Mercury rules over the earth via the sign of Virgo. So because of this earth and surrender kind of distinction or syncretization within Spenta Armaiti, I decided to mix it in with Mercury. Next we have Harvitat, which is wholeness and health. And Harvitat, meaning wholeness and health, presides over water. Again, if you guys are familiar with astrology, you guys might know what this is the last option that could be used for Harvitat. And this is the moon. First of all, the moon has a whole phase in it in terms of the full moon, and it's typically a sign that is dedicated towards subconscious health. The moon, however, as you all know, also resides over water. It rules over the tides in modern science, as we know, and also in astrology, it rules over the sign of Cancer, which is a water sign. Finally, we have Amirtat, which is immortality. Amirtat presides over plants. And using the process of elimination, but not only because of that, but because of the general reasonings here, Amirtat constitutes Saturn. Now, like I said, this isn't just because Saturn is the only planet we have left, but also because I think it fits contextually within Amirtat's role. Amirtat playing the role of presiding over planets sounds a lot like Saturn, because in a lot of astrological and pagan paradigms, Saturn is typically the ruler over agriculture and land. Typically, what agriculture constitutes is plants, right? See example of Cronus, and where Cronus holds a scythe representing the farm and the harvest. But most importantly, and this is something I kind of thought up with, the Harvard means immortality. And Saturn in a lot of astrological paradigms deals with death and rebirth. So it makes sense for the angel of immortality to kind of preside over a planet that typically deals with death and rebirth, as a constant must be made amongst the variables. So yeah, all in all, that has been my video explaining the Amesha Spentas within the astrological framework or paradigm. Thank you guys so much for watching. Brief video, just a little bit over 10 minutes, but actually that's quite longer than usual. But I hope that the video was straight to the point, made a lot of sense, and was coherent to any passerby that wants to know a little bit more about the practice. I've been researching this religion for a few years now. I'm not no expert in it. However, I do think that it's worth giving some sort of justice or some sort of modern correspondence in, just so people can get a grasp of it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and Ken 3 times with the Iguanas Tahab, and I am out.